there for almost 12 years. Every year is something, the brush, the plants. I understand wildlife, but isn't life, humanity more important?
January 31st, there's more water coming. It's more rain coming. If we can't handle one day, how are we going to handle 4 to 5?
We're the ones bleeding out there. Nobody's coming to help us.
So
nobody.
We have the shelter here. We have stuff. And I've already said, let me do my job of doing this part. And then I want to do my more important job, which is talking to you.
The city streets, the mud, and all those kind of things, you know, they can be vacuumed up, a Baker tank, something. So just give us a hand and let us get off our knees.
Anger and frustration boil over at a news conference in Mountain View. This comes as the city of San Diego, the county, and the state of California declare states of emergency here due to the worst flooding in 90 years. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Carlo Cicchetto.
I'm Marcella Lee. We have team coverage tonight. Our Shannon Handy is in Mountain View with people wondering where they can go for help. But we begin with CBS 8's David Godfredson, who has an update from Mayor Todd Gloria, who toured the damaged areas today. David?
I saw homes that were destroyed by floodwaters. Go back to their house. Floodwaters that reached the ceilings in some cases. I saw cars that had been picked up and moved down the street, floated away from where they had been parked, got swamped with water and with mud. I saw the entire lives change in just a few minutes.
Mayor Todd Gloria toured Southcrest Tuesday, one of the worst hit neighborhoods in one of the worst floods in San Diego history.
The last storm of this severity was in the 1930s, and there have been fewer than 5 storms this severe in the city's recorded history.
The city of San Diego, the county of San Diego, and the state of California all declared states of emergency Tuesday in an effort to help people and businesses. After the mayor's news conference, residents of Mountain View had their say.
Everything's gone. My flooring, everything is gone. My whole first floor is my garage door caved in, the inside of the house, the door, the garage door went in the house.
Many wanted to know why the flood control channels have not been maintained. Residents on 42nd Street said they have been complaining to the city about it.
We asked them to clean that channel out. It's full of debris. Up there is concrete, down here is mud and dirt. We got trees growing in there. Those trees you see right there, those trees are growing in the flood channel.
The flood channel that overflowed is referred to as South Choice Creek, and it runs from Mountain View to Southcrest. City records show it was supposed to be maintained as part of an emergency maintenance plan dating back to 2016. I asked the city's stormwater director, Todd Snyder, about that.
The environmental agencies require us, when we remove vegetation from our channels, we have to mitigate or purchase land or put that native vegetation back somewhere off-site.
Snyder says the city has about 200 flood control channels, and currently, because of the high cost of maintenance and the required environmental review, only about 4 channels get maintained per year.
Why do we have to be the ones to suffer? Because wildlife? We, the residents, we, the people.
The city is hopeful that now that a state of emergency has been declared, federal funds might flow into the maintenance of these flood control channels. In Mountain View, David Godfredson, CBS 8.
Thank you, David. Now, a lot of people whose homes were damaged blame the lack of maintenance on that storm channel David was talking about, saying much of what happened could have been prevented. They're now left wondering where they can go for help. CBS 8's Shannon Handy is working for you to get answers. She joins us live now with what she found out. Shannon?
Marcella, most of the homes that were damaged here in Mountain View back up to that channel that David was just talking about. And like you heard from the residents in his story, they say this channel has long been ignored. It's hard to see, but you might be able to spot some of the debris that they're referring to just behind my shoulder here. Now, as they try to clean up, which they are doing at this hour, they're left wondering what steps can they take to get back on their feet. Irvin Torian hasn't slept much since floodwaters ravaged through the Mountain View home he lives in. Instead, he's been busy cleaning up debris, the first step in a list of many as he tries to rebuild. What was it like yesterday?
It was actually real scary. Me and my girlfriend was here, and I have 2 puppies, Presa Canera puppies, but the water was so high It was above everything. How far it was, you could see the water level all the way here.
Irvin walked me around the property to show me some of the damage. The backyard, which used to have grass, is a mud pit. The fence is covered with leaves, branches, and shrubbery that got stuck when the channel it backs up to flooded over.
All this right here, it's like a net now.
Irvin, who grew up in the area, says the channel hasn't been maintained. Most of the people we talked to out here agree. They're now left wondering where to go for help. So I reached out to Jeff Toney, who is in charge of the county's Office of Emergency Services. He says first, people should contact their insurance agent to see what coverage they have. Next, complete a survey on alertsandiego.org. Using that information, the county can better assess the damage and use it to apply for state and federal funding. Finally, if you need food, supplies, or a place to stay, contact the Red Cross. They're the ones in charge of the shelter over at Lincoln High School. It's a good place to start, but what about people who need immediate financial help? Is there any emergency funding available now through the county that residents can access?
Unfortunately, no.
Jeff says accessing funding takes time, but the more people who fill out the county survey, the better chance we have in getting that assistance. In the meantime, he and his team are working with local nonprofits to see who can offer help as soon as possible.
Recovery can be daunting. It can take a long time, especially if you have damages to your home. Rest assured, we're doing everything we can to work for San Diegans get back to normal.
And we do have a link to that survey on our website. Just go to CBS8.com and click on the help button. Now, Jeff Toney says it's really important to figure out how much damage there was so they can have a better shot at getting state and federal funding. And that's why those surveys are so important, because they need to meet certain thresholds for certain portions of that funding. Marcella?
Shannon, we saw so much damage yesterday in our coverage. Do we know exactly what those thresholds are?
Yeah, there's many intricacies when it comes to state and federal funding. I know that it was mentioned in the previous story by David, but when it comes to, for example, FEMA coming in and being able to give people grants, essentially give people thousands of dollars, just write them a check, he says there's a threshold of 1,000 homes that need to have experienced some type of damage. So right now, we really don't have an estimate as to how many homes were damaged during this incident. But even if it's the smallest thing versus the biggest thing, which we've shown you lots of visuals in our story, he says it's really important for people to go online, fill out that survey so the county can turn that over to the state and the federal government and say, hey, look, we have all these people who need help. Please help us now.
That is great information. If you suffered damage out there to your property, go to our website, like Shannon just said, fill out that survey so we can get some federal assistance. Thanks so much, Shannon, for all of those resources. Here at CBS 8, we want to help solve problems that affect you. If there's something you'd like us to look into, shoot us an email, workingforyou@cbs8.com.
You're probably hearing a lot about records set with this storm, and you might be hearing different numbers.
Chief Meteorologist Carlene Chavis is here now to explain, break down these numbers, and kind of set the record straight on the records.
I always say that social media is the worst form of telephone that exists. And I understand there's a lot of confusion out there, especially when you're talking about such devastation that we have seen in our county. And when we take a look at the records, it was not the wettest day in the history of San Diego, but it was the wettest January. So let's go ahead and break it down. Taking a closer look, we had about top 5 days when it comes to the wettest days on record here for San Diego, the city of San Diego. Now, we were talking about this yesterday when we didn't have that additional 0.03 of an inch that we could potentially actually tie with the 5th place, but we actually just went ahead and took that record of the 4th place because we did have additional rainfall that moved through last night. That was after the influx that we had yesterday morning. So this marks the 4th. Yesterday marks the 4th wettest day in the history of San Diego, the city of San Diego. When we take a look at that record for January, we did break that record. It previously stood at 2.57 inches on January 31st back in 1979. We hit 2.73. So you're talking about the wettest January that we had, wettest January day, and that was for city of San Diego. So when we take a look at these records that I have coming up, not just the city of San Diego being impacted with some record rainfall yesterday, we saw it across the county. We'll get to those details coming up. Carlo.
Thanks, Carlene. And don't forget, you can get the latest forecast and have weather alerts sent straight to your phone. Just download the free CBS 8 app or head to our website, cbs8.com. Meantime, cleanup efforts are underway in National City after it got 3.7 inches of rain within 5 hours yesterday. This is what it looked like at Happy Hollow Mobile Home Park today. 50 people were displaced. The city manager says there's damage like this all over National City, and crews are helping the community to clean up. People living in the Southcrest neighborhood in the city of San Diego were also hit very hard by yesterday's flooding. CBS 8's Brian White is live on Beta Street, where many homes were damaged. Brian.
I'm here at Southcrest Trails Park, where this car behind me was swept up in the floodwaters yesterday, and now its back end is resting up on that fence there. Now, this isn't an uncommon sight here on Beta Street, as cars were picked up and pushed down the road with the force of those floodwaters.
And I hear my husband telling me, we gotta go, we gotta go. And so I just grabbed my laptop, our dog.
Chaos with the rising waters as people were forced to flee their homes in a matter of seconds.
And all that we were able to do is to grab a few documents, the important ones, and the dog and my wife, and we just ran away. We couldn't even take the cars.
The storm channel overflowing behind Beta Street, catching people off guard. Firefighters were on scene rescuing people using kayaks and rafts to bring them to safety.
Cars are flipped over, and it looks like a disaster zone.
Like Katrina. It was like Katrina.
Harold Roberts has lived here for more than 20 years.
This is the water line. Right here. Can you see?
He gave me a tour inside his house, the floor covered in mud.
Look at the floors. It's a mess. It's a mess. Look at the bathrooms.
Neighbors picking up the pieces today, shoveling mud, some not knowing where to start.
The water came in through the door, and it was very super fast. It took like probably 25 minutes, and the level of the water went up to 2 feet, and it damaged all the furniture, all the floors, and all my electronics are damaged.
Mayor Todd Gloria surveyed the damage here in the Southcrest neighborhood this morning. He declared a state of emergency yesterday, as did the county. Meanwhile, people living around here tell me they're upset that the storm channel wasn't cleared out properly to prevent all this. And they say it's happened before in years past.
We got to see what's the next step. We're just waiting for phone calls and emails and all of that. But so far, we got to figure it out. We're going to stay and what are we going to eat.
The city's fire department told us 3 people were transported to local hospitals from here on Beta Street, and the Red Cross has set up shelter at Lincoln High School for anyone displaced here. Back to you guys.
Quite a sight. Thanks, Brian. Still ahead tonight, just how protected you really are when it comes to flooding and your car insurance policy.
Plus, where a woman in California was busted and accused of stealing thousands of dollars worth of Stanleys.
And up next, when construction on a high-speed rail connecting Southern California and Las Vegas could finally start.